all the stuff from the 80s was coming back. If you, because I'm into decadology, and this applies to the 30-year rule, where things from the childhood of those in when they were growing up comes back into into now 30 years later, because now they're working on it. So the Gen 1 kids who grew up with Dragon Ball in the 80s brought all their stuff, because now they're working on it, they bring it and show it to their kids. Same thing with the Gen 2, Gen 2 kids showing GT to their children through Daima, just as Akio Yoku
Now
said.
they're going to show their kids.
And think about how much stuff from the 80s came back during this time. Like, you had Terminator, you had Star Wars, even though that was 76, Halloween, even though that was 78,
Ninja Turtles,
acid wash jeans, joggers, all that stuff was coming back. Even Back to the Future came back with Rick and Morty.
Yeah, that's true.
And you hit the nail on the bottle. You hit the perfect time spot, because this is when you first started your channel.
2015. I know, bro. When I started my YouTube channel, the first video that I uploaded, it wasn't even going to be, I wasn't trying to be a YouTuber. The first video I uploaded was a subtitled Resurrection F teaser or trailer. And it was in super high quality, because I got my hands on a really high quality one, and then I added the subs. And then I started my YouTube channel because there was people that I was working with that were doing the news, and they were clickbaiting, or they were not crediting. And I originally started YouTube to recruit people for my website, but then I realized I can just do it my own damn self. So I started dropping some news about Resurrection F that other channels didn't have. And so then one thing led to another. YouTube for me was an accident. It was a happy accident, bro. I tripped and fell into it because I wasn't intending on being a YouTuber. Like, my goal was to get to 10,000 subs in the first year, and I ended the first year with 43,000. And I still worked full time. Like, I still was working, but I was dropping information nobody else had, and I had a different perspective, because at the time.
But I think that's a big reason why your channel saw so much success so fast. Like, you intend to get to 10,000, but you grew to like 40,000. It's because you were, getting a lot of Laps fans who were probably nostalgic about it. Plus, the hype train was hype, like, just crazy.
That's a big reason, yeah.
Because I remember even 2016, you still had less subs than Kwame did. Like, he still had
right.
A whole
No,
bunch
he was one of the big shots, yeah, for sure.
Like, because there was so, and in this era, there was so much nostalgic. Like, people were so nostalgic for everything, right? This is the nostalgia era, right? This is like when they brought Trunks back. And I remember when this happened. I remember exactly where I was when this happened. Do you remember when they brought Trunks back?
Yes, I do remember that. I do remember that, because that shit dropped at 4 a.m, and I was asleep, and I woke up at like 9:30, and I'm fucking wiping the coals out my eyes like Biggie. And then I turn on my computer, and I see the poster you're talking about, and I'm like, fuck, I missed this, because I knocked out that night.
I remember by this point, because we had all known about Dragon Ball Super, right? But to this point, Super, at least in America, was still what I would say underground. But, once that dropped, I remember people like going to school, because I moved during this time period. Like, I moved, and I remember going to school, and I see more people talking about Dragon Ball Super. Have you seen Dragon Ball Super? You know about this new Dragon Ball Super? I'm like, yeah, dude, I've known about it for over a year. But like, I remember Trunks being, what got people, like a lot of people into Dragon Ball Super. The one thing that annoyed me, though, was that his hair was blue. Like, I understood the reasons. I even watched your video on it. I remember doing that. But like, his hair being blue, like, that was just annoying to me. Like, I still
don't think it should have been blue hair. It should have been the original hair.
And even like they would have it in the flashbacks and all that stuff, and it was just annoying.
No, in the flashback it's blue, remember? They had to reanimate it, because whenever they did flashbacks, this is something about Super I found interesting. Whenever they did flashbacks to anything from Z, it was Kai footage. And anytime they had something that wasn't upscaled like Kai was, it would be redone. So every scene in the Trunks arc that flashback to that special was redone with the blue hair, because they only wanted to use the Kai source. It was an already HD source of Dragon Ball. If you remember, what the episode where Krillin and Goku go find that weed for Master Roshi, they show flashbacks to OG Dragon Ball, and it's all reanimated. It's all done like the modern style. And it's because they didn't have like a Kai version of OG Dragon Ball at the time. And so that's why it was like that. But his hair was retconned into being blue the whole time, when it never was blue. Like you said, it was purple.
I think I Mandela-affected myself into.
Yeah, we'll go back now, bro. When you get a chance, you will see it reanimated. It's fucking wild.
Because I definitely remember watching those episodes when they came out. But like Trunks coming back, like this really started the, taking Dragon Ball Super out of the underground in terms of popularity in America. Like I remember this is what really catapulted Dragon Ball Super's popularity.
You know what it is, bro? Because I remember how weird that time was. The Trunks coming back thing that you're talking about was actually, what was the name? An actual magazine covered that. Like, I don't know if it was Time Magazine. It might have been Time Magazine. Some big ass magazine covered that Trunks coming back, but I don't remember which one right now, and that might be why.
And then from that point forward, like where it really exploded was, when Goku went UI and then it crashed Crunchyroll. I remember that night too, and I know you remember. Like that's when Dragon Ball Super reached its zenith in terms of popularity, and even just it carried that ball going into the last episode.
That's when it was at its peak, unquestionable.
Yeah, and despite it being so popular, this episode actually performed its worst in terms of ratings. And I know there was like some things where they switched up the time slot, and One Piece aired it's a week before too.
I will never forget the night that UI happened. Everything crashed. I got to see it, thankfully, with a Keyhole TV. I was watching the Japanese feed. And my review, I will never forget this as long as I live. My Dragon Ball Super review that night hit 100,000 views in 45 minutes. it didn't even get to an hour, and that shit was at 100K. That's like Latin American numbers, bro. I was like, what the fuck? I was happy, don't get me wrong, but I was like, this people were really, really wanting to see this, yo. But remember, it was a double feature. They hyped it up like that.
But I actually made a video about this.
Back then? Oh, now? Oh, you meant now?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
I got you.
The highest rated episode of Dragon Ball Super was episode 47.
was the Trunks
and then
episode,
the highest
the first
rated
one.
episode of Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Kai was also 47, because Dragon Ball Kai was episode 47 was when
Super
Goku transformed. So I find it interesting that the highest 3 rated episodes for Ball, Super, and Kai was episode 47. But, you know, even with that taken into account, I thought the Tournament of Power, for as much hype as it gets, it wasn't even all that good. Like, it dragged on a lot. And, you know, like, Jiren, like...
Well, I feel that way about the retellings, but I agree with you. It ain't that good. It's just
They
not.
should have booked him like Kane in the 2001 Rumble, just have him throwing people out.
That's what I wanted.
It was predictable in all the worst ways. Like you knew they were going to win, and Jiren was being stupid, and then the sky was always dark and stuff like that. Just
Well, I think I had a guy tell me like that Super and Tournament of Power was like the peak of the Dragon Ball fandom, and he didn't know. I was like, no, bro, it's nowhere near as big as it was back in the day. But the reason why it felt like it was big is because of the internet. Because now we're seeing people from all over the world and we're able to talk to them. Whereas before, those same people were still watching Dragon Ball. We just couldn't communicate with them. Now we can. So yes, it feels bigger, but it's not bigger. It's kind of like when they say that WWE's going through to a boom period now. The only reason they're going to a boom period now is because they're charging more money for tickets, so they're breaking all these records because everything's overpriced. But viewership-wise, they're nowhere close to where they were at during the Attitude Era, and that's objectively true. And there was, I seen some people on Twitter again thinking they know shit. Oh, I think that this era is bigger than the Attitude Era. Well, you don't know jack shit what you're talking about because it's not, and we have numbers. We have numbers to prove it.
And all this stuff that we're talking about would have been with the Gen 4's experience, which is the closest people have come, or what Dragon Ball has come to replicating what the Gen 1s went through with the manga, the TV series, the movies, the games. But that's what the Gen 4s would have gone through, especially in Japan.